Welcome back, dreamers. Tonight we'll explore a gentle mystery, why a brief sting in the body can linger as a long echo in the mind. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I love picturing our sleepy little map lighting up across the globe. If you enjoy these calm, science-soft explanations, please subscribe, tap like, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a quiet wander through your wonderful brain. Now, breathe out, settle in, and let's drift. Imagine a tiny spark touching the skin, a pinprick, a bump against the edge of a table, a twinge blooming low in the back after sitting too long. In the body, it is simple. Specialized nerve endings called nociceptors notice tissue threat and fire. Their messages travel along swift A-delta fibers for sharp, fast pain and slower C fibers for the dull, lingering ache. They enter the spinal cord's dorsal horn, get relayed and modulated, then climb toward the brain. Up there, in a space no larger than your two fists pressed together, the raw signal becomes an experience. The thalamus routes, the insula colors the feeling with "this matters." The somatosensory cortex sketches a map. Where, how big, which side. The anterior cingulate folds in urgency. The prefrontal regions wonder what it means. The amygdala checks for danger. The hippocampus searches memory for context. In an instant, sensation becomes meaning, and meaning becomes an action plan. Pull away, protect, attend. And yet, long after the flesh has quieted, the experience can continue, not in the tissue, but in the theater of the mind. Picture a song that plays once through a speaker and then keeps humming in your head after the radio is off. Pain often behaves like that. The initial injury might last seconds, or the flare may pass in minutes, yet the brain, built to remember threat, can replay the pattern. It is not faking, it is forecasting. Your nervous system evolved to favor survival over precision. If there is even a whisper of possible danger, it will lean toward caution, because a false alarm is safer than a missed one. This bias turns the volume knob a little higher than neutrality would require. A signal that has already calmed in the body can remain vivid in awareness, because the system would rather watch the last place it saw the predator than look away too soon. Attention is the conductor of this lingering orchestra. Where attention rests, sensation grows brighter. Try this gentle experiment in your imagination. When you attend to the place that hurt earlier, the outline of the sensation sharpens, as if a spotlight aimed at a small stage. If you back the attention away, hearing the hum of a distant appliance, noticing the weight of your clothing, the coolness of air at the tip of your nose, the outline softens. Nothing magical changes in the skin during those few breaths. Instead, the networks that prioritize inputs shift. The salience network ceding a little ground to calmer circuits. The pain is still real, but its grip on the foreground loosens, and your experience changes ratio. Less signal, more space. Meaning is the multiplier that makes echoes louder or quieter. Consider how different it feels to think. That twinge means I damaged myself badly and it'll never heal, versus that twinge is a message that I moved awkwardly. My tissues are active and will settle with some care. Both interpretations can be convincing in the moment, yet the first tells the brain to keep the alarm ringing, while the second invites the descending modulators, the brain's own pain-dimming pathways, to step in. Those pathways, running from cortex through the periaqueductal grey and down to the spinal cord, release neurochemicals that close the gate a bit, damping incoming signals. A kinder story is not denial. It is a physiological intervention, opening a route for the body's pharmacy to act. Memory adds another layer. Emotional salience highlights pages in your mind's library. Because pain often signals threat, the brain underlines that page in fluorescent ink and dog-ears the corner. Later, a small cue, a movement, a thought, a whiff of the place where it happened, can pull the page back open. When it opens, the memory is not a photograph. It is a reconstruction, woven anew from fragments. That means it is also editable. If the old scene returns with an automatic rush of alarm, you can pair it with a different atmosphere, dimmer lights, slower breath, a hand on the chest or belly, a sentence that acknowledges and soothes. Over time, the highlighted page remains in the library, but the ink fades. The mind learns that the story ends with safety. The body's map in the brain is plastic too, changeable with use, attention, and context. After repeated pain, adjacent map areas can blur, the borders grow fuzzy, and normal touch may be misread as warning. This is sensitization, a kind of learned overprotection. It is not a moral failure, it is a practice effect. The system has practiced loud and close so often that it plays that way automatically. The good news hidden inside this is that practice cuts both ways. Small, frequent experiences of safe movement and gentle sensation, warmth, stretch, light pressure, buoyant walking, redraw the map with softer edges. The brain learns again to sort signals. Threat here, normal there, safe throughout most of the territory. Social cues are powerful levers on this process. A worried face across from you can tilt the mind toward caution, while a calm, caring presence tells the guard dog it can lie down. We are social mammals. Our nervous systems read each other for safety. Even your own inner voice can serve as that companion. When the echo starts, notice the tone of the voice in your head. If it is sharp, predicting catastrophe, the echo strengthens. If it is friendly and specific, I feel a small warm throb on the right. I'm breathing. I'm okay right now. The salience drops. Specificity matters. Precision shrinks a vague fog into a manageable dot. Dots are easier to live with than fog. Time itself stretches under the hand of discomfort. Seconds expand when you stare at them. Think of waiting for a kettle to boil while focusing only on the red glow of the element. The wait feels long. Add a book, a conversation, or a quiet gaze at a window, and the minutes pass without argument. Pain can have the same relationship to time. When it has the entire stage, the play drags. When it shares space with neutral or pleasant sensations, the production moves along. This is not pretending the pain is gone. It is reclaiming the rest of the moment from a single demanding actor. None of this denies the reality of harm when it exists. If you twist an ankle, tissues are stressed. If you cut a finger, cells must knit. What this perspective offers is a second truth alongside the first. The brain can keep an echo running beyond the tissue's needs, and that echo depends on attention, meaning, memory, and context. By adjusting those knobs, gently, consistently, you influence the volume at which your world plays. A few breaths with longer exhales invite the parasympathetic system to take the wheel. A hand resting on the painful area with curiosity instead of fear tells the map, "This is me, and I am safe in me." A tiny movement, ankle circles, shoulder shrugs, a slow turn of the head, reassures the system that you're not trapped. You can try a brief practice right now. Notice where your body meets the surface beneath you. Let your jaw loosen. Imagine the painful place as an island, not the whole ocean. Name a single neutral sensation elsewhere. The temperature at your cheek, the weight of your feet, the quiet between sounds. Count 5 steady breaths with longer exhales, as if you're fogging a mirror in slow motion. If the mind returns to the island, thank it for trying to keep you safe, then widen the frame again. Nothing dramatic may happen in a single minute, but you're rehearsing a different outcome, teaching the brain to keep the echo at a humane volume. Slowly, the system learns that vigilance can take breaks. The guard dog discovers that the gate is sturdy, the yard familiar, the night clear. The radio hum still exists, but it steps back behind everyday textures, steam rising from a cup, pages turning, the soft thud of your heartbeat. In that widened space, your choices return. You can move how you choose, rest when you need, and respond rather than react. The first sting becomes only one moment among many, and its long echo begins to dissolve into the larger, kinder soundscape of your life, setting the stage for understanding how expectation will shape what comes next. Your brain is not a passive microphone soaking up reality. It is a composer, forever writing what it expects to hear, and then checking the world to see if the melody fits. In pain, this matters. Long before a signal reaches conscious awareness, your nervous system is quietly asking, given what I know, what should I feel right now? It uses priors, memories, beliefs, context, and mood to predict incoming sensations, and it treats those predictions as hypotheses to be confirmed or corrected. When the real input arrives from the body, the brain compares it to its best guess. If the match is close, the prediction stands, and little extra processing is needed. If the mismatch is large, a prediction error travels upward, asking for an update. In this framework, pain is not merely detected, it is inferred. The mind is not lying to you, it is doing its cautious arithmetic with incomplete data, weighting safety over accuracy, because a few extra false alarms are far cheaper than a single missed threat. Expectation is the brain's volume knob. Imagine 2 identical pinpricks. In the first, someone tells you a friendly story. You'll feel a tiny tap. Most people barely notice it. In the second, they warn, this might really hurt. The physical event is the same, but the brain that arrives at the moment is not. The story alters the prior, and the prior tunes the gain on sensory channels. Under a danger prior, the thalamus and salience networks are primed. The amygdala leans forward, and descending modulators from the brainstem adjust spinal gating to let more signal through. Under a safe prior, the opposite pattern occurs. Signals are dampened, context cues are integrated, and the experience is smaller. Placebo and nocebo are not tricks. They are demonstrations of how powerful prediction is in shaping real physiological experience. Precision is the secret ingredient in this prediction recipe. Precision means how much confidence the system places in a signal, top down, what it expects, or bottom up, what arrives. Attention increases precision. If you watch the site of a vaccine needle with all your focus, you raise the precision of incoming signals from that patch of skin and deeper tissues, making the brain value even faint hints of discomfort. If you soften your gaze and widen awareness to the whole room, the chair, your feet, a friend's calm face, you spread precision across more channels, and any single signal matters less. Anxiety and stress also skew precision toward threat, because their job is to prepare you for bad surprises. Under anxious precision, neutral sensations can be misread as warnings. Under calmer precision, warnings have to be clearer to dominate the scene. The predictive brain works with context as much as with sensation, because context is often the fastest clue about what is likely to happen. A dark alley raises the prior of danger. A sunlit kitchen lowers it. Translating this to the body, a twinge felt at the gym after a normal workout will be framed as effort and growth, while the same twinge felt while sitting still during a stressful email might be labeled, something is wrong. The tissues could be identical. The predicted meaning is not. Hospital rooms, the smell of antiseptic, the clink of instruments. These are context cues that lift the brain's threat estimate. Soft lighting, a warm blanket, and a confident, kind voice pull it down. Small changes in context can be surprisingly potent because they shift the prior before the first signal even knocks at the door. Memory supplies the priors. If your last injection was rushed and frightening, your brain stores not just the event, but the fear that accompanied it, as if highlighting a page with fluorescent ink and writing "pay attention next time" in the margin. At the next appointment, long before the needle appears, your body may already prepare for danger. Heart rate ticks up, breathing shortens, muscles brace, attention narrows. The classic pattern of a system raising the precision of expected threat. Each of those changes is itself felt as sensation. The brain then interprets those sensations as further evidence that pain is inevitable, closing a self-reinforcing loop. Breaking the loop starts earlier than most people think. It starts with altering what is predicted, so the body does not have to prove the prediction true. This predictive architecture explains why anticipation can sometimes feel worse than the event. The brain projects a near-future state and begins to organize around it, a process called allostatic preparation. If the predicted future is pain, protective adjustments start now. You might stiffen around a joint, hold your breath, move less, scan your body for danger. Ironically, some of these protective acts increase discomfort by reducing circulation and flexibility, or by focusing attention too tightly on a vulnerable region. The system senses the increased discomfort and says, "See, the danger must be real," and the prediction hardens. This is not your fault. It is a side effect of a design optimized for survival. But it is also trainable, which is hopeful. Active inference is the brain's habit of not only predicting sensations, but also changing behavior to make predictions come true. If you think a stretch will hurt, you might move in a way that keeps the area guarded, which deprives it of the gentle input that would have signaled safety. Over time, the guarded pattern becomes the default, and the prediction "this hurts" continues to be confirmed. Reversing this involves tiny experiments. Move a millimeter into the edge of sensation while breathing slowly, then back off, then return. Let the brain learn that the prediction can be updated without danger. The descending modulatory system, the periaqueductal gray and rostroventromedial medulla, listens closely to these top-down messages of safety and adjusts spinal gating accordingly. This is not pretend. It is anatomy cooperating with mindset. Consider how labels change predictions. If the mind's headline is "sharp, dangerous, probably damage," the amygdala reads, "That is a cue to keep alarms high." If the headline is "warm, tight, fading after activity," the cortical evaluators let more of the day's other inputs into the mix. The feeling of the chair, the sound of distant traffic, the gentle weight of clothing on the skin. The sensation doesn't disappear, but it loses the monopoly on your experience. A simple, accurate label helps here. Broad words like pain collect many experiences under one fearful banner. Narrow words like sting, pull, pulse, heat, or static slice the experience into parts the brain can predict more precisely. Precision lowers uncertainty. Lowered uncertainty lowers threat. Beliefs about the body are among the strongest priors of all. If you've been told your back is fragile or your knees are worn out, the brain may predict injury with every small sensation, then inflate it to match the story. Yet bodies are often tougher and more adaptable than those phrases suggest. When belief shifts toward resilience, tissues heal, movement nourishes joints, this system is learning. The same small sensations can be predicted as safe signals, the kind that accompany recovery and training. The brain's maps update with use. They can learn a kinder geography. Reassurance is not empty comfort. It is a data point the predictive system needs to reweight its model. Social information becomes shared prediction. We borrow other people's priors, especially from those we trust. A grimace on a clinician's face can tilt your expectation toward harm. A confident, warm explanation can tilt it toward safety. Even your own inner narrator is a social cue you hear all day. If that voice is catastrophic and absolute, this will never end. The system boosts threat precision. If the voice is specific and time-bound, this is a small flare that will ease after I walk and breathe. You are feeding the model an alternative that the body can test and confirm. Over time, the system will choose the story with the best track record. Because expectation is a lever, you can practice using it. Before a potentially uncomfortable moment, plant cues of safety on purpose. Soften your shoulders, lengthen the exhale. Picture a place where your body has felt at ease and quietly preview the experience with neutral words. I'll feel a brief pressure, then warmth, then it passes. During the moment, widen your attention so that more than one channel is active. The sensation is there, and so is the weight of your feet, and the rhythm of breath, and the support of the chair. Afterward, mark the memory accurately. It was manageable. It rose. It stayed. It fell. You are not denying reality. You are training the predictive system with better data. None of this means ignoring signs that truly require care. Prediction does not replace evaluation. It frames it. The art is to notice how much of the experience is being built by top-down expectation, and then to nudge those expectations toward accuracy and safety. In practice, that looks like many small, consistent choices, choosing precise language, arranging kinder context, rehearsing calm, letting movements be curious rather than defensive, and updating beliefs about your body's capacity. With repetition, the brain learns new priors, and the next time a small signal arrives, it will be met by a system that expects less danger and more adaptability, ready to keep exploring the landscape rather than retreating from it. Memory does not keep minutes, it keeps meaning. When something hurts, the brain marks the moment with a bright pen so you can avoid the same threat later. This is efficient survival logic. Emotionally charged events receive priority filing. The amygdala flags salience, the hippocampus binds the where and when, and neuromodulators like noradrenaline and cortisol wash through synapses, strengthening connections, so the trace is easier to find next time. Later, a fragment of the scene, a smell, a posture, the angle of light, can pull the whole memory back into awareness through pattern completion. You do not have to think your way to it. The network springs forward on its own, as if the book you reached for opened already to the underlined page. Pain benefits from this system because it can indicate danger, but the cost is that the page sometimes flips open even when danger has passed. Because memory is reconstruction rather than playback, each recall is an opportunity for editing. During retrieval, the trace becomes malleable. During reconsolidation, it can be updated with whatever context surrounds it. This is why a painful memory revisited in panic tends to reconsolidate with more panic, while the same memory revisited inside a calmer setting can return to storage softened. Experiments in fear learning show this clearly. When a cue previously paired with discomfort is later presented with safety, the brain can build an inhibitory memory that competes with the old one. The original trace may not vanish, but a new path grows around it. With repetition, that safer path becomes the preferred route the system takes. Emotion acts as a highlighter that determines which details are remembered and which fade into gist. Under threat, the brain favors the outline that aids quick action. Where was it? How did it start? What should I avoid? This negativity bias is not pessimism. It is a hedge in your favor, yet it means neutral or positive details are easy to miss unless you mark them deliberately. After an episode of discomfort, the mind naturally replays the worst instant. It takes a small act of attention to also record the part where the sensation eased, the breath slowed, the body moved without harm. Over time, those added frames provide counterbalance, so the memory is not only a spike, but also the slope that followed. State-dependent memory stitches body feelings to what the brain learns. If you were braced, holding your breath, and scanning for danger during the painful event, those internal states become part of the retrieval key. When you later find yourself braced and scanning again, the key fits and the memory unlocks. This is one reason gentler body states matter. Slow exhalation and relaxed shoulders are not just comfort. They are alternative keys that fail to open the old cabinet. If you consistently pair the memory with a calmer physiology, the brain learns to bring up a quieter version, as if the same scene were shot with a steadier camera. Sleep is the librarian that files everything. During slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus replays new experiences to the cortex, strengthening important traces and letting go of noise. REM sleep weaves emotional tones into stories, integrating them with existing models. Poor sleep allows fragments to remain loosely filed, easy to jostle and distort. Good sleep helps the system decide what deserves a bright highlighter and what can be stored in ordinary ink. This is why even modest improvements in sleep hygiene, regular times, dimmer lights before bed, a predictable wind-down, often reduce next-day reactivity to pain memories by a noticeable margin. You wake with a clearer distinction between a cue that matters and a cue that can be ignored. Generalization is another feature that sometimes becomes a bug. The brain does not only learn the exact cue, it learns a neighborhood. If bending forward once hurt, the system may mark a cluster of movements as suspicious. This is protective until it is not. With time, the neighborhood can expand too far, and ordinary safe motions wear the same warning label. The fix is graded specificity in the opposite direction. Small, varied, successful movements redraw the map, teaching the memory to discriminate again. This angle is fine. This speed is fine. This range is fine. Precision training shrinks a vague cloud of bad into a few well-understood points that can be approached wisely or left alone while healing proceeds. The hippocampus is fond of context frames, and you can offer them on purpose. Place matters. A painful memory learned in a clinical setting might quiet more readily in a friendly room with soft sounds and a trusted companion. Time of day matters. If discomfort peaks in the evening, create a contrasting morning memory with gentle movement and warmth, so the brain does not assign all hours the same forecast. Even posture matters. Recalling an event with an open chest and supported spine yields a different felt tone than recalling it while hunched and breathless. These are not superficial tweaks. They are levers that change which associations are bound into the next version of the memory. Words leave traces too. The labels you attach during and after an event become part of its index. Broad, absolute phrases like, "This ruined my back," or "My body is broken," carve deep grooves that future sensations will tend to fall into. Narrow, time-bound descriptions. A sharp twinge after lifting. Stiffness that eased after walking. Create smaller grooves with exits. The brain searches by headings. Give it headings that allow updates. When the next hint of sensation arrives, the system will have more shelves to choose from than the one labeled catastrophe. Rumination rehearses whatever script you hand it. Each mental replay strengthens whichever connections are active. If the replay is full of self-criticism and fear, those networks thicken. If it is curious, descriptive, and brief, other networks get practice. A practical shift is to move from why questions, which invite speculation, to what questions, which invite observation. What do I feel? What eased it last time? What small action helps now? Set a time boundary for review, and then redirect attention to a neutral anchor. This does not erase the trace. It keeps you from over-inking it. There is also the way pain memories can become overgeneral, blurry on details, but strong on threat. This pattern is common in low mood and anxiety, where recall tends to favor gist over specifics. Training specificity helps. After a flare, jot the concrete sequence: onset, peak, duration, what was tried, what changed, how it ended. Specific endings teach the brain that episodes are events with contours, not endless atmospheres. Later, when a cue appears, the memory that comes back is a map with roads instead of a storm with no edges. Social memory weaves through all of this. The expressions you saw, the words you heard, the posture of the person beside you, these become part of the trace. A calm explanation from a clinician or a friend's steady presence often compresses the future weight of the memory more than we realize, because the brain encodes "we were safe together" alongside "it hurt." You can borrow that effect by supplying your own steady presence through self-talk that is concrete and kind. The nervous system responds to tone as much as content. Warm, factual sentences are analgesic in small, cumulative ways. On the microscopic level, synaptic tagging and capture offer a hopeful story. When an event tags a synapse for strengthening, later, even modest positive inputs can be captured to stabilize or reshape the trace. That means small good experiences matter disproportionately if they arrive within the window when the memory is still settling. A short walk that ends in relief, a stretch that feels pleasant, a minute of slow breathing, these are not trivial. They are the raw materials memory uses to write "safe enough" into the margins of the next draft. None of this requires erasing the past. The goal is to let the past take its appropriate size. Pain memories should guide without governing. With repetition of accurate labeling, kinder context, gentle movement, better sleep, and deliberate recall while calm, the highlighted page remains easy to find when truly needed, and harder to summon when it is not. Over weeks, the fluorescent ink fades to ordinary emphasis, and the system learns to consult the memory as a reference rather than as a command. From there, the next piece of the experience emerges more clearly: the meaning you attach to sensations in the present, and how the story you tell can either keep the alarm lit or let it dim while the body does its quiet work. Pain is not just a signal, it is a sentence the mind writes about the signal. The raw sensation is a handful of letters: pressure, heat, tightness, sting, while the meaning you assign becomes the grammar that shapes a whole paragraph. If the paragraph reads, "This means I'm breaking," the nervous system keeps the alarm switched on. If it reads, "This is my body asking for a small adjustment," descending modulators engage, attention widens, and the experience loosens its grip. The difference is not denial versus truth. It is threat story versus care story. Threat stories are sticky because they promise certainty and control. If you assume the worst, you feel prepared. But they extract a cost: muscle guarding, shallow breaths, narrowed attention, and a brain bias to confirm the fear. A care story is not a fairy tale. It is a functional script that invites accurate observation and helpful action. The default mode network loves to narrate. When it idles, it tells stories about the self: what happened, what it means, what might happen next. Under stress, that narration skews toward catastrophizing. Mind reading: they'll be disappointed. Fortune telling: it will get worse. And all or nothing conclusions: if it hurts now, it's ruined. These are habits of prediction dressed as facts. They feel protective because they prepare you for danger, but they also recruit the salience network to scan for proof. The scan finds ambiguous sensations, marks them as evidence, and the loop tightens. Recognizing this process is a form of analgesia in itself. When you can say, "I'm in a prediction loop," you are already in the prefrontal lane of the highway, where choices live, rather than riding in the back seat with the alarm. Language is a lever here. Broad labels like "I'm in pain again" paint the whole canvas one color. Specific phrases, "a warm ache behind the left shoulder when I twist quickly," slice the experience into manageable parts. Specificity shrinks threat because it increases precision. You can then test small actions against a specific sensation: slower twisting, breath first, shorter range, a brief pause after movement. Each test sends better data up the line. The brain, seeing that the story "danger everywhere" is poor at prediction compared with the story "intense but localized," changes with posture and breath, quietly updates its model in favor of the more accurate narrator. Metaphors steer physiology. Calling your back fragile is an instruction to guard. Calling it sensitive while it learns is an instruction to support and move. The nervous system listens to those instructions through muscle tone and breath. If the metaphor invites gentleness, muscles drop a notch, the diaphragm resumes its wave, and parasympathetic pathways send all clear signals downward. If the metaphor invites fear, shoulders rise, jaw tightens, and sympathetic tone primes you for bracing. Try on metaphors like shoes and keep the pair that lets you walk without limping. Stiff but thawing, noisy but stable, a vigilant alarm that I can dial down, weather passing over steady ground. Meaning is not only private, it is social. A clinician's stray comment or a friend's expression can become part of your internal script. If you were told, "This spine is a mess," your mind might stage every sensation as a collapse. If you were told strong, adaptable issues, sometimes overprotective, you might stage the same sensation as a training signal. Neither statement changes the immediate biology, but each changes the behavior that follows: how you move, how you rest, which experiments you try. Over days and weeks, those behaviors become inputs that shape biology. Meaning sets practice, practice sets thresholds. The inner critic often masquerades as the voice of reason. It says, "You should be over this by now. You're weak. You're doing it wrong." That tone is an amplifier for threat. It recruits vigilance and squeezes curiosity out of the scene. Curiosity, by contrast, is analgesic because it widens the frame. What exactly am I feeling? Where does it start and stop? What reduces it 10%? A curious question focuses on data you can test. The critic is not defeated by arguing with it. It is outgrown by feeding a different narrator more airtime. The guide who speaks in specifics and next steps. Breathe down, soften jaw, try the movement slow, check again in 30 seconds. Reappraisal is the art of telling the truth more completely. If the first thought is, "This is dangerous," reappraisal asks, "What else is true right now?" Perhaps. It rose fast, now it's steady, breath slows it. Walking helped last week. I have options. Importantly, reappraisal is not positive spin. It refuses both sugar coating and doom. It includes the discomfort and the part of the field that is not discomfort. The rest of the body, the chair, the air, the sounds, the support in your life. By including more of the scene, it lowers the percentage of attention the sensation occupies. The signal is still there, but the denominator is larger. Meaning sits inside a bigger structure, values. Pain tries to reorganize your world around avoidance. Values reorganize your world around what matters. If a value is being present with my kids, then a flare becomes a logistics problem rather than a verdict. How can I participate at a level that fits today's body, even if that means sitting on a cushion or taking more breaks? When meaning attaches to values, the story stops being "I can't until it's gone" and becomes "I can differently now." The nervous system hears the difference. Successes against valued goals, even tiny ones, are safety signals the brain trusts more than slogans. Defusion, the skill of seeing thoughts as thoughts, creates room to maneuver. When the mind narrates, "This will never end," you can answer, "I'm noticing the never story," and then check what the body actually reports in this minute. That shift from being inside the story to watching the story reduces automaticity. Sometimes pairing the thought with a gentle physical cue helps. Exhale longer than you inhale. Drop your shoulders. Let the tongue rest. The body state says, "We're evaluating, not reacting," and the thought settles enough for you to act on present data. Rituals anchor meaning. A short script repeated during flares trains the system. Name, normalize, nudge. Name. There's a tight band under the ribs. Normalize. This has happened before and eased after movement and warmth. Nudge. I'll stand, roll the shoulders, breathe, and recheck. Writing this on a card or note app externalizes memory when the default narrative is loud. Over time, the ritual becomes automatic, like fastening a seatbelt. The brain begins to predict the sequence. Notice, calm, small action, reassess, and the alarm learns to expect a lower peak. Journaling in 2 columns, story and evidence, exposes distortion. Left side, the headline that arrived in your mind. Right side, what your senses, history, and trusted sources say. Story: my knee is ruined. Evidence: it swelled after a long hike. Heat and rest helped. Stairs were better this morning. Clinicians said tissues are irritated but stable. Last month's flare eased in 4 days. Seeing both columns at once moves the center of gravity away from absolutism and toward proportion. Proportion is what the nervous system needs to recalibrate. It does not require a perfect body. It requires a believable narrative that supports testing, not hiding. Meaning also lives in posture. The nervous system reads the shape you inhabit as a hint about the scene. Curled, breathless shapes suggest danger. Open, supported shapes suggest room to think. Changing shape is not a moral victory. It is a message to your brainstem. Try. Sit back into support. Let the abdomen move with breath. Keep the back long without rigidly straightening. Allow the eyes to soften and widen. In that posture, the story, "I must brace," feels less compulsory, and alternative lines of text become writable. Compassion is not indulgence. It is the only tone that keeps the channel open long enough to learn. Harshness narrows your world to mistakes. Compassion makes room for micro-successes to be noticed and repeated. Micro-successes: stood for 2 minutes, walked the block, slept half an hour more, chose precise language, asked for help, are not minor. They are the bricks of the new narrative. Keep a visible tally. The brain is biased to remember spikes of distress. You can even the ledger by documenting and revisiting evidence that safety and competence are also recurring characters. Beware of false endings in the story you tell. If I just find the perfect stretch, I'll never feel this again. Or, if I avoid X forever, I'll be fine. Seem hopeful, but shrink your life. A more resilient arc is, I can influence this in multiple ways, some days more than others. That line respects variation and teaches flexibility, which is precisely what sensitized systems need. Flexibility makes you robust to small surprises. Robustness gives the predictive brain more reasons to choose a quieter forecast. Meaning interacts with movement in both directions. A threat story drives avoidance and bracing, which feeds more threat. A care story drives graded exposure and exploration, which feeds confidence. The simplest moves often carry the most information. Slow head turns, shoulder rolls, ankle circles, walking at a pace where breath stays easy. Pair movement with language that emphasizes capability. Learning, adapting, testing, tuning. Each repetition teaches your nervous system that the body is not a fragile object, but a living process that changes with input. Processes are easier to support than broken objects are to fix. Finally, meaning has a temporal dimension. Threat stories collapse time. Always, never, forever. Care stories track rhythms. Mornings are stiff and improve after heat. Afternoons are steadier. Flare-ups have a start, a middle, and an end. When you narrate in rhythms, the amygdala hears predictability. Predictable patterns de-escalate alarms. If you do not yet know your rhythms, watch for a week and chart them. The act of charting is already a different story. The scientist observing, rather than the defendant on trial. From that vantage, you are better prepared for the next layer of the experience, where the body's sensitivity can rise after repeated alarms, where you can practice turning the overall gain down without turning your life off. Sometimes the nervous system learns to keep the alarm a little too ready, as if the volume knob were stuck halfway up. After a run of intense or repeated signals, the body's detectors become easier to set off, and the brain's evaluators listen harder for hints of trouble. This is sensitization. It is not imaginary. It is a real change in how signals are handled. Think of it as upgrading a smoke detector after a kitchen flare-up. Useful for a while, but if the new detector reacts to warm toast, you end up living around the alarm. The good news hidden inside this less than pleasant upgrade is that learning built it, and learning can unbuild it in small, steady steps. On the body side, the first shift happens where signals begin. When tissue is irritated, local chemistry changes. Immune cells and stressed fibers release mediators that lower the threshold of nociceptors, the specialized sensors for potential harm. They become more talkative. Channels in the nerve endings open sooner. Even a mild stretch or touch can prompt a message. Some silent nociceptors that usually watch quietly are recruited and begin reporting. This is peripheral sensitization. The goal is protection while healing, but if the chemistry lingers or flares recur, the sensitivity becomes the new default. The neighborhood around the original site can expand, so that areas that were once neutral now feel tender, like a map whose borders have smudged. Higher up in the spinal cord's first relay, neurons learn too. Repeated bursts from the periphery make them more responsive, a phenomenon you can picture as a sound technician slowly sliding a fader up after hearing the same riff again and again. With repeated input, the receptors on these relay cells change. Signals that used to require a loud knock now get through with a tap. Inhibitory breaks, which usually help balance the mix, can wear down or be outcompeted, so that the same incoming information produces a bigger output. This shows up as temporal summation or wind-up. A series of identical taps on the system grows in perceived intensity, even though nothing in the outside world got stronger. The field those neurons listen to can also enlarge, which is why pain sometimes spreads beyond the original spot. In the brain itself, the story continues. Areas that map the body, the somatosensory cortices, can blur, a process sometimes called map smudging. Boundaries between adjacent parts become less crisp, and ordinary touch may be interpreted through a threat-leaning filter. Regions that assign importance, like the insular and anterior cingulate, become quicker to label inputs as salient. Networks that normally dampen signals descending from the brainstem down the spinal cord can shift their balance, providing less inhibition and sometimes even facilitation. Under fatigue, stress, or low mood, this bias toward amplification grows stronger because the system is organized to favor survival when resources are thin. Two everyday consequences of this stuck volume knob are hyperalgesia and allodynia. Hyperalgesia means an actually painful input feels more painful than it should. Allodynia means a non-painful input, like light touch or mild pressure, is experienced as pain. Neither reflects weakness. Both reflect a system that has prioritized caution to an extreme. The purpose was protection, and for a while, it may have helped you guard injured tissues, move less abruptly, and rest. But when the tissue has quieted and the processing stays loud, the strategy becomes a trap. Life shrinks around the alarm. Stress can glue the knob in place. The sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, our fast protective gear, pairs readily with sensitization. Muscles carry extra tone. Breathing rides high and shallow. Attention narrows. Each of those changes sends its own stream of sensations upward, which the predictive brain can misread as further proof of danger. Cortisol and noradrenaline sharpen vigilance, which is brilliant in a crisis and exhausting in a week. The cycle is circular. The more sensitized you feel, the more you brace. The more you brace, the more sensitized you feel. Breaking the circle rarely involves one grand act. It involves hundreds of small, consistent nudges. One helpful frame is to see sensitization as a practice effect. Neurons that fire together wire together. If the system has practiced loud and close for months, it will play that way automatically. The task is not to defeat the system, but to teach it a new routine. Start with inputs that are unquestionably safe and repeat them often. Gentle heat that feels pleasant. A hand resting with friendly pressure on a tense area. Slow nasal breathing with longer exhales. Tiny movements that do not spike discomfort. These are "it's okay" signals. They travel upward, are compared against the brain's prediction of danger, and if repeated, begin to pull the prediction down. Think of each repetition as a new data point in a model that updates slowly but surely. Graded exposure is the core method for movement. Instead of avoiding all actions that have ever hurt, you find the smallest version that is tolerable, pair it with calm breath and a supportive narrative, and repeat. Then you add a millimeter, a degree, a second. The goal is not heroics, it is clean, repeatable success that the system can trust. The difference between "I did it once," white-knuckled, and "I did it daily," calm, is the difference between a story the brain discards and a story it adopts. Vary the context to prevent the map from learning only one narrow path. Change environments, speeds, body positions, and times of day, staying within the window where the system can learn without flaring hard. Pacing protects the gains. Sensitized systems dislike boom and bust, overdoing on better days and then crashing. A steadier cadence teaches predictability, and predictability calms alarms. Rather than using pain as the sole governor of activity, use pre-planned limits and rests. Stop while you still feel capable, not only when you are forced to. This preserves a memory of success and lets the nervous system file "ended well" alongside "started uncertain." Ending well is a surprisingly potent teacher. Attention is a tool you can sharpen. Because sensitization magnifies signals you focus on, practice widening the frame. Keep one part of awareness on the area that feels loud and another part on neutral anchors. The weight of your feet, the coolness at the nostrils, background sounds. Name the sensation precisely. Warm pull, spark, pressure, and rate it loosely rather than exactly to avoid turning monitoring into a test. If it rises, lengthen the exhale and let the shoulders descend. If it eases even slightly, acknowledge that out loud. The brain records what you mark. Mark the easings. Sleep repairs the bias. Poor sleep is a fertilizer for sensitization. Even a single shortened night can measurably increase sensitivity the next day. Build a wind down that tells your predictive brain, "We are safe and done seeking." Low light, less scrolling, a consistent cue like a brief body scan or gentle stretch, cooler room, predictable bedtime. Each seems small, and together they shift the chemistry that meets the morning. The next day's signals enter a system with a little more inhibition available, and your experiments in movement and attention land better. Language matters more than it seems. The words you attach to your body are instructions. Damaged and fragile, cue bracing. Sensitive and learning cue, curiosity and support. Write a sentence you can believe on a flare day, neither doom nor syrup, such as, "My system is sensitized. Small inputs feel big. I can influence the gain." Put it where you will see it when the old story gets loud. Read it, then act on it with a small, calming behavior. Pairing the sentence with an action cements it in a way thoughts alone cannot. Nutrition, hydration, and general metabolic steadiness do not fix sensitization by themselves, but they set the stage. Big swings in blood sugar, dehydration, and persistent low-grade inflammation are background noise the system has to interpret. Quieter backgrounds help the foreground stand out accurately. Regular meals with adequate protein, fiber, and micronutrients, fluids across the day, sunlight in the morning, and brief daytime movement breaks all reduce noise and leave more processing room for "this is safe" messages to be heard. Social signals are potent game changers. A calm, confident explanation from a trusted person lowers threat estimates, while an anxious, catastrophic framing raises them. Choose your informational diet with the same care you choose physical inputs. Seek sources that emphasize adaptability and practical steps. Limit ones that fixate on damage metaphors. Even your own inner voice counts as a social signal. Train it to speak in specifics and next actions, the way a good coach would. 2 slow breaths. Soften jaw. Try the smaller movement. Check in again. Sometimes the knob feels welded in place because life loads are high. Grief, deadlines, caretaking, uncertainty. It is not weakness if the system amplifies under those weights. It is expected. The approach does not change, but the dose does. You may need shorter practices, gentler movements, and a more generous pace. You may need to borrow regulation from outside yourself. A quiet room, a predictable routine, a reassuring companion, until your own signals are strong enough to lead. Sensitization is not all or nothing. It is a sliding scale, and small shifts count. There are also playful routes in. Laterality training, silently identifying left versus right hands or feet from images, can sharpen cortical maps without provoking the body. Imagined movements rehearsed calmly can prime the system for real movements later. Mirror work for asymmetrical discomfort. Light touch around, not on, the sensitive area. And exploring textures or temperatures that feel pleasant are all ways of feeding the brain high-quality, low-threat input. Variety keeps the learning general and prevents the system from anchoring on one ritual as the only path to safety. It helps to monitor progress with lenses other than pain today. Track flexibility in choices. Could you walk a little farther, sit in more postures, say yes to a plan, recover faster from a flare, shift attention sooner, sleep more steadily? Sensitization often loosens first across these dimensions before the loudness number changes. If you only watch the number, you might miss the many signs that the system's gain is easing. Noticing them is not bragging. It is input your predictive brain needs to keep updating toward calm. Above all, patience is not passive. In this context, it means steady, repeated teaching delivered without threat. You are showing a sensitive guard dog the ordinary rhythms of the house, not by scolding, but by living in a way that makes sense to the dog. Predictable routes, gentle introductions, lots of safe exposures, and confident guidance. Over weeks, the dog learns that footsteps in the hall are not intruders. Over the same weeks, your system learns that signals from tissues are not necessarily emergencies. The knob that once felt stuck begins to slide with less effort, preparing you to notice how other humans can nudge it up or down as you move through your day. Pain does not happen in a vacuum. It happens in a landscape filled with faces, voices, gestures, and expectations. Your nervous system is constantly reading that landscape for cues of safety or threat. And those social cues change how loud signals feel. A calm, friendly face can dial the alarm down. A worried frown can nudge it up. This is not imagination. It is biology that evolved for mammals who survive together. When someone you trust is near and attuned, your heart rate variability tends to improve. Breathing becomes more regular. Muscles let go of a notch of tension. And the brain weighs incoming sensations against a larger sense of safety. In isolation, the opposite pattern often appears. Vigilance climbs, small discomforts loom, and neutral signals are more likely to be interpreted as warnings. The same twinge in a crowded ER at 3 a.m. is not the same twinge on a sofa with a kind friend and a warm drink. Attunement is the invisible bridge between bodies. It is built from small behaviors, soft eye contact, a warm tone, a pace that matches yours, a hand offered rather than imposed. When attunement is present, the body reads, "I am with someone who understands," and the sympathetic system gets permission to stand down. The relief is measurable not only in mood, but in thresholds. Pressure that felt sharp can feel manageable. Movement that felt risky can become possible. This is why a clinician who listens without rushing can be analgesic before any treatment begins, and why a rushed, alarmed explanation can amplify symptoms even if the information is technically correct. The body listens to tone and pacing as much as to content. Validation is the first social analgesic. It does two things at once. It acknowledges reality, this hurts, and it places the experience in a workable frame, and we have ways to help. Too often, the social pendulum swings between minimization and catastrophizing. Minimization says, "It's nothing," which forces you to argue for your own suffering. Catastrophizing says, "It's terrible and will always be terrible," which forces your body to brace for a future with no exits. Validation threads the narrow path. You're feeling a tight, hot ache that spikes with twisting. It makes sense you're cautious. Let's find what helps and build from there. Bodies settle under sentences like that because they are both accurate and oriented toward agency. Touch, used wisely and consensually, is one of the most powerful social cues of safety. A steady hand on the shoulder, a gentle palm on the upper back, a warm compress held in place by someone you trust. These are signals the nervous system understands immediately. They communicate presence without words, and they can downshift the gain on incoming signals enough to make movement or breath work possible. The key is that the receiver leads. The pressure, location, and duration should be guided by the person in discomfort, and touch should never override their signals. Even self-touch, one hand on the chest, one on the belly, can leverage this pathway, especially when paired with slow exhalation and a calm inner voice. Co-regulation is the name for how nervous systems sync and soothe each other. You can practice co-regulation deliberately. Sit beside someone who feels safe, not face to face, but shoulder to shoulder, which is less performative and more comfortable. Begin by matching breaths gently, without forcing depth. After a minute, lengthen the exhale together by a second or two. Keep the jaw loose and the shoulders heavy. Then add a simple shared rhythm, quiet counting to 4 on the inhale, to 6 on the exhale, or a slow sway of the upper body. These small synchronies act like metronomes for the autonomic system. Once the rhythm is stable, bring a small, previously provocative movement into the flow. Turn the head a few degrees, roll one shoulder, flex and point an ankle, while keeping breath and companionship steady. The brain learns that the movement occurs inside a safe duet, and that memory will be available later when you're alone. Language from partners and caregivers can either sand down the rough edges or sharpen them. Well-meant but alarmed phrases, "Oh no, don't move, you'll make it worse," often encourage guarding that actually increases discomfort. More helpful scripts sound like, "Let's go at your pace, we'll stop if it spikes, I'm right here," which supports exploration while honoring limits. You can help the people around you by giving them a few phrases that work for you in advance, because most loved ones are not mind readers. For example, "When I'm flaring, it helps if you speak slowly, remind me to breathe out, and ask what small movement I want to try first." Offering scripts is not selfish. It's training your support system to be effective. There's also a social side to the placebo-nocebo effect. Trust and rapport boost positive expectations. Distrust and fear boost negative ones. You can stack the deck in your favor by curating your inputs. Choose clinicians who explain clearly, prefer strength-based metaphors, sensitive but adaptable, irritated, not broken, and offer stepwise plans you can enact. Limit exposure to sensationalized stories that equate discomfort with damage. Seek communities, online or in person, where the norm is practical encouragement rather than competitive suffering. Stories are contagious. Spend time with those that spread capacity. Partners and family often fall into two unhelpful patterns: over-solicitousness and dismissiveness. Over-solicitousness treats you as fragile, doing everything for you and inadvertently confirming the brain's prediction that normal activities are dangerous. Dismissiveness treats you as if nothing is wrong and pushes you to ignore signals that matter. The middle path is responsive support. Offer help that makes the next small step possible, then step back. Do you want an arm while you stand, or would you rather I just watch your timing, respects autonomy, and provides a scaffold? Over time, the scaffold can be thinned as confidence grows. Loneliness is itself painful. Social baseline theory suggests that the brain expects certain loads to be shared. When they are not, effort feels higher. This means that simply knowing support is available, someone you could text, a neighbor who would drive you, a clinician who returns messages, reduces perceived load, even if you do not use the support in that moment. You can build a baseline by mapping your circle. Who can help with information? Who can help with practical tasks? Who can help with mood? Write names next to roles. Add phone numbers, and keep the list where you can see it. The act of making the map is already a message to your nervous system that you are not alone. Micro moments of connection add up. You do not need hour-long heart-to-hearts to benefit. 30 seconds of shared laughter, a genuine thank you at a checkout, a text exchange with a friend, a quiet nod with a neighbor, all are small doses of "I am among." If you are housebound or low on energy, pets can play this role beautifully. Stroking a cat or walking a dog creates predictable rhythms and affectionate touch that bodies understand as safety. Even digital connection helps when it is intentional. A voice note from a trusted person can be replayed as a portable cue during flares. Prepare for socially intense settings that often amplify symptoms: medical visits, crowded transit, long meetings. Beforehand, preview what you want to say using concrete, time-bound language. I have a burning ache low on the right that worsens after 20 minutes. Sitting and eases with walking. My goal today is to identify 2 adjustments and 1 next step. Bring a written summary because stress scrambles recall. Ask a companion to be your second set of ears with a clear job. If I get overwhelmed, please pause the conversation and ask the clinician to restate the plan. Afterward, debrief with the same companion in plain terms so your memory stores the encounter as structured rather than chaotic. Cultural scripts complicate the social amplifier. Many of us were taught to tough it out, while others were taught to be hypervigilant about bodily sensations. Both scripts can overrule the body's present data. You can write a new script that sounds like, I listen to signals and respond with proportion, and share it with your circle. When people around you repeat that script back, it becomes easier to live by. Teach your network the cues that help you recalibrate. If I sound clipped, please ask me to take a long exhale, or if I start spiraling, remind me to describe the sensation with 3 precise words. Humor is not denial. It is a pressure valve that widens perspective. A shared joke about your over-enthusiastic smoke alarm or your drama queen hamstring can take the edge off, provided the humor is kind and used by consent. Laughter resets breathing and loosens muscular holding patterns. Use it strategically. A light quip before a graded movement, a smile after a small victory, a silly sticker on the calendar marking practice days. These playful cues teach the brain that engagement with your body can include lightness, not only seriousness. Group rhythms change thresholds. Singing with others, swaying to music, walking in step, or praying together are time-tested ways humans regulate as a unit. If large groups are too much, try 1 other person and a simple rhythm. 4-count breaths, a metronome set low, or a gentle march on the spot. Rhythms provide predictability, and predictable environments reduce the likelihood that the brain will treat ambiguous signals as threats. Over time, you will be able to carry the rhythm internally into moments when no one is around. When social interactions have gone poorly in the past, being disbelieved, dismissed, or frightened by authority, their memory can sharpen future alarms. You can use imagery to borrow the benefits of attunement, even when a supportive person is not present. Picture a specific, trusted face. Hear their voice saying the words that help. Imagine their posture beside you as you breathe and move. Pair the image with a physical anchor, like touching your own shoulder, so the association becomes embodied. Then, when you are in a harder environment, use the anchor to evoke the same state. Boundaries preserve the social buffer. You do not owe anyone access to your body or your time if the cost is a spike in symptoms with no offsetting benefit. Kindly limiting conversations about worst-case scenarios, declining offers that frame you as fragile, and choosing companions who support your plan are not antisocial. They are ways of protecting the conditions under which your system learns best. You can say, I appreciate your concern. I'm following a stepwise plan that's working for me. I'd love your help with a walk and a chat about anything but my back, and mean it. Teach your helpers how to spot early signs that your system is tipping into threat. Clipped answers, holding breath, scanning, bracing. Give them 2 or 3 agreed responses. Let's pause and breathe out together. Want to change positions? Would heat help right now? This makes support practical rather than abstract and prevents a well-meaning person from pushing you past your learning zone. Conversely, Let them know what a green light looks like: looser shoulders, fuller breath, easy conversation, so they can celebrate with you and reinforce the conditions that produced it. Finally, remember that the social amplifier includes your relationship with yourself. The inner voice you use, the patience you grant, the way you mark progress, these are social inputs repeated dozens of times a day. If that voice is warm, precise, and oriented towards small next steps, your nervous system learns to expect support even when you are alone. If it is harsh and absolute, it learns to brace. Practicing a friendlier tone is not fluff. It is training your autonomic system to pair discomfort with guidance instead of threat. Combined with the presence of people who reflect back your capability, this becomes a steady background of safety against which the body's signals can be felt accurately and responded to with proportion, setting you up to bring the same steadiness into the quieter hours when rest and recovery matter most. Night is the quiet laboratory where your nervous system retunes itself. During sleep, 1,000 small calibrations unfold. The brain rebalances the chemistry of stress and calm, cleans metabolic byproducts through the glymphatic flow, fine-tunes immune signals that influence sensitivity, and rehearses memories so the next day's predictions are less alarmed. When sleep is short or fractured, those calibrations are incomplete, and the same inputs can feel louder the following day. Even a single curtailed night can lower pain thresholds a notch. Several in a row can make background sensations feel like foreground events. This is not weakness. It is the straightforward consequence of a system doing complex work with fewer quiet hours to do it. Sleep has two main rhythms that matter for comfort. The circadian clock sets the daily timing via light cues, body temperature, and hormones, while the homeostatic drive builds sleep pressure the longer you're awake, partly through substances like adenosine. Caffeine wedges into adenosine's parking spots and delays the feeling of sleepiness, which is useful early but unhelpful late. When the circadian signal and the homeostatic drive line up in the evening, body temperature drifting down, melatonin rising, light levels low, the gates to sleep open more easily. If those signals are out of sync, the gate sticks, you lie awake, the mind starts scanning, and discomfort gets more airtime than it deserves. Inside the night, stages alternate in 90-minute cycles. Deep non-REM sleep, slow wave, is the nightly repair shop. Growth hormone peaks, tissues rebuild, immune orchestration favors anti-inflammatory balance, and the spinal brakes that damp incoming signals replenish their resources. REM sleep is the editor's room. The brain integrates emotional tone with memory, reducing the sting of yesterday's alarms and filing them where they belong. When slow-wave sleep is skimpy, bodies feel creaky and reactive. When REM is cut short, feelings run hotter and neutral inputs are judged more harshly. Pain and poor sleep push each other. Discomfort fragments the night. Fragments heighten next-day sensitivity. So your aim is to loosen both sides of that knot with steady habits, not a single heroic tug. One powerful habit is a consistent wake-up time. Waking at roughly the same hour anchors the clock even if the bedtime floats a little. Anchoring wake time lets morning light do its job. It tells the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock, day has begun, which cascades into better timing for body temperature, cortisol, and melatonin later. Get light in your eyes early, outside if possible, even on cloudy days. for 5 to 20 minutes while you move gently. Evening light does the opposite. Bright overheads and screens delay melatonin and push the night later. Dim lamps, warmer color temperatures, and screen limits in the last hour are not aesthetics. They're physiological levers. The hour before bed is a message to your predictive brain. Build a wind down you can repeat most nights so the body learns. We are switching modes. Lower lights, lower demands. Swap urgent conversations for quiet tasks. Offload the mind by writing a brief list. 3 unfinished items and the next tiny step for each tomorrow. Then close the notebook. If worry loops start in bed, move worry time earlier in the evening. Set a 10-minute timer. List concerns. Jot one action where possible. And end with a neutral sentence like, "Noted. Continued tomorrow." This nudges the brain away from using 2 a.m. as its planning meeting. Breath is the simplest bridge into sleep physiology. Longer exhales signal the parasympathetic system that it can steer. Try an easy pattern in bed. Inhale through the nose to a comfortable count. Exhale a beat or two longer. Pause briefly. Repeat. Keep it light, not forced. A gentle body scan works well with breath. Draw attention from crown to toes, naming sensations without judgment. Warmth, weight, contact, softness, lingering where neutral or pleasant feelings live. Where discomfort is loud, invite precision, a warm pull at the right hip, and curiosity. Does the exhale make it 10% softer? You are not bargaining for sleep. You are creating the conditions where sleep often arrives as a side effect. Environment matters more than most people think because your nervous system reads the room as a safety clue. Cooler air helps. Many sleep best near 17 to 19 degrees Celsius because a dropping core temperature is part of the natural sleep cascade. Make darkness easy. Blackout curtains or a simple eye mask to keep stray light from punching holes in melatonin's rise. Quiet is ideal, but predictable sound can substitute. A fan or white noise machine gives the brain a steady backdrop against which surprises are less likely. If pain wakes you, keep what you need within reach. An extra pillow to change angles. A pre-warmed compress to apply for a few minutes before settling again. A glass of water and a note to self that reminds you of your plan so you don't have to think hard at 3 a.m. Positioning is a form of analgesia. The aim is to stack joints in a way your tissues interpret as no emergency. On your side, a pillow between knees and another drawn into a gentle hug can quiet hip and shoulder signals. On your back, a pillow under the knees often reduces low back tension. For upper back or rib sensitivity, try a small towel roll beneath the shoulder blades to open the chest for a few minutes before flattening it. If the neck complains, adjust pillow height so the nose points straight up rather than tilting, and let the jaw be heavy, the tongue resting against the palate. Tiny micro movements, ankle circles, slow shoulder rolls, and easy pelvic tilt can be enough to ease a spike without fully waking the system. Pair any adjustment with 2 long exhales to teach the brain that movement at night equals safety. Stimulus control keeps the bed associated with sleep rather than struggle. If you find yourself awake and keyed up, staring at the ceiling, consider getting out of bed after roughly 15 to 20 minutes and doing something unexciting in low light. A few pages of a paper book, a puzzle with big pieces, quiet stretching, then return to bed when your eyes start to feel heavy again. Repeat as needed. It seems tedious, but it protects the association bed equals sleep, which pays dividends in the long run. Hide the clock. Time watching is gasoline on the worry fire and adds no useful information. Daytime choices set up nighttime outcomes. Movement, especially earlier in the day, deepens sleep pressure and improves sleep architecture. Brisk walks, light strength work, or gentle mobility sessions are all valuable. Keep intense training away from the last couple of hours. Sunlight after waking helps the clock. Dimness before bed helps it again. Caffeine is a morning friend and an afternoon saboteur. Many sleep better with a cut-off 8 or more hours before bedtime. Nicotine is a stimulant. Alcohol sedates, but fragments sleep and suppresses REM, which is why it often produces 3 a.m. awakenings. Aim for steady meals. Big, late, spicy dinners can push reflux and restless nights. Hydrate through the day more than the evening to reduce wake-ups, but keep a small sip available so thirst doesn't drag you fully awake. When pain and sleep tangle, beliefs about sleep often make the knot tighter. Thoughts like, if I don't get 8 hours, tomorrow is ruined, sound prudent, but raise pressure and arousal. A gentler, truer stance is, rest counts. Quiet time in the dark is still recovery. Sleep comes in waves. On a rough night, aim for good enough rather than perfect. Mark any benefit you notice the next day, even a little more patience, a shorter flare, a quicker return to baseline after a stressor, so your brain learns that progress is broader than the number on the clock. Cognitive and behavioral tools are sturdy here. Sleep restriction, temporarily limiting time in bed to approximate actual sleep time, then expanding as efficiency improves, is a strong intervention, best learned with guidance, but you can borrow its principle by avoiding long dozing in bed while awake. Paradoxical intention, giving yourself permission to simply rest rather than trying to sleep, reduces performance anxiety. If the mind starts scripting catastrophes, shift to what questions anchored in the present. What is the next simplest comfort I can add? What part of my body already feels neutral or pleasant? What small movement would make this position easier? The aim is not to win an argument with your thoughts. It is to run a calmer program, long enough for physiology to take over. Track patterns for 1 or 2 weeks. Jot wake time, light exposure, movement, caffeine timing, naps, evening wind down, bedtime, number and length of wake-ups, and a brief pain note. Look for rhythms rather than single causes. Maybe nights are better after morning walks, or worse after late screens, or wake-ups shrink when the room is cooler. Change one lever at a time and give it several days. Your nervous system likes predictability. It updates more confidently when the environment is stable. Naps can help if used carefully. Short and early is the rule for most, 10 to 20 minutes before mid-afternoon, to reduce sleep pressure just enough without stealing from the night. If you've had several very short nights, a slightly longer nap might be the right call once or twice, acknowledging that bedtime could drift later that evening. Treat naps as a tool, not a habit, unless your schedule is intentionally biphasic, in which case, keep the second sleep consistent so the clock learns the pattern. If awakenings arrive with a jolt, build a simple out and back routine you can follow sleepy-brained. Out. Sit up, 2 long exhales, sip water, apply a warm compress for 3 minutes, read 2 pages, or look at a calming photo. Back. Reset pillows. Place a hand where the body feels safest. Do 6 light breaths with longer exhales, and briefly visualize a scene you associate with comfort. Ocean, forest, a quiet cafe, using one sense at a time. Avoid evaluating how you're doing, do the steps, and let them be enough. Over time, the system predicts. Wake up leads to ritual, leads to sleep, and the gap between each shrinks. Pain flares often peak in the late evening because fatigue, lower distraction, and natural temperature shifts make signals more noticeable. You can preempt some of that peak with a pre-sleep prehab. 5 to 10 minutes before bed of gentle mobility in the areas that complain, paired with breath. A warm shower or bath to raise skin temperature so the subsequent drop helps sleep onset. A minute or two of light self-massage around, not on, the loudest spots to feed the brain trustworthy, non-threat input. Seal it with your wind down and keep the rest of the evening quiet. If you share a bed, co-regulate on purpose. Agree on lights down and device down times that suit both of you. Use separate blankets if temperature preferences clash. A brief shared breathing rhythm or a short exchange. 3 things you appreciated today settles tone and helps both clocks align. If one partner snores, consider positional tweaks or separate start times. Resentment is a stimulant, and kindness is a sedative. Above all, treat sleep as a relationship you cultivate, not a switch you force. Relationships improve with consistency, good conditions, fewer mixed signals, and plenty of small positive interactions. The more your nights feel safe and predictable, the more your days inherit a nervous system that is less inclined to treat ambiguous signals as threats. In that steadier body, it becomes easier to practice the next skill, how attention shapes the length and texture of your moments, so discomfort occupies less of the day's canvas, even when it is present. Attention is the lens that sets the size of your moments. When you stare at a single sensation, it grows. When you widen the frame, it takes its proper place among all the other textures of now. Pain often recruits attention by design. Your salience network tags the signal as important. The orienting reflex turns your gaze inward, and time itself seems to stretch to make room for the inspection. Seconds lengthen because your brain is collecting more samples from the same small patch of experience. That extra sampling is useful when a real threat needs solving. It becomes a trap when the signal is simply a sensitive system repeating "be careful" on loop. The sense that time drags during discomfort is not a character flaw. It is a feature of how perception is built. Your brain estimates duration by counting change. If attention is tightly focused on a slow, repetitive sensation, a throb, a pull, a hum, it registers many tiny updates and concludes, this moment is long. The same clock feels shorter when attention is spread across multiple streams. Breath, room tone, the weight of your legs, a distant conversation, because each stream offers fewer samples per channel and the system averages a smaller total. In practice, this means that even without changing the signal, you can change the felt length of the moment by changing the number of channels you let into awareness. Networks in the brain reflect this shift. When attention narrows in a guarded way, the salience and interoceptive hubs dominate, filtering everything through a threat lens. When attention opens, dorsal attention systems and default mode corridors share the load, and the meaning of the signal is weighed against a larger scene. The signal does not disappear. Its monopoly ends. This is why a quiet, panoramic gaze, soft eyes that take in the whole room rather than pinning a point, often reduces intensity a notch. Visual wideness recruits neural patterns linked to exploration rather than defense. The body reads, "We're surveying, not fighting." Expectation and attention travel together. Under anxious prediction, attention seeks confirmatory evidence and finds it in every flicker, stretching moments until they feel like hours. Under gentler prediction, attention becomes more curious. What exactly is here? What else is here? And the same minutes become workable. This is not an argument for distraction, which often backfires when used as an escape. It is an argument for deliberate, layered attention that includes the signal without surrendering the whole stage to it. Layered attention is a practical skill. Start with one neutral anchor you can feel easily. The contact of your feet with the floor, the rise of breath low in the belly, the weight of your back against the chair. Name it in simple terms: steady, warm, heavy. Then include the area that feels loud, but give it a smaller share of the frame on purpose. Describe it precisely. 3-finger-wide pull on the right, sparks that rise then fade, pressure like a thumbprint. Now add one external stream, a far sound, a shaft of light on the wall, the coolness at the tip of your nose. Hold all three for a few breaths. You are not pushing the discomfort away, you are placing it in context. With practice, the ratio changes. Less signal, more scene. Labels matter because they steer attention. Broad labels like pain recruit everything under one banner and keep attention glued to vagueness. Narrow labels invite measurement and update. If you can say, warm rope under the shoulder blade that eases 10% on the exhale, your brain has something to test. And attention has something to do besides worry. Even the difference between it hurts and I notice a tight band that peaks when I twist fast changes where the spotlight goes, away from global verdicts and toward local facts. Attention also sets the pace of movement, and pace shapes perception. Rapid, jerky inspections of a tender area feed the alarm. Slow, continuous sweeps of awareness teach the system that there is time. Try scanning a region like weather moving across a landscape, not poking for trouble, but letting sensation come to you at the speed of breath. If something catches, stay with it for a couple of long exhales, then continue the sweep. You are practicing not just noticing, but non-rushed noticing, which is the opposite of alarm. Small experiments show how attention changes intensity without changing input. Hold your forearm and apply a gentle, steady pressure. Stare directly at the spot and narrate catastrophe for 15 seconds. Most people feel the pressure grow. Now soften the eyes, widen the view to include the whole arm and the room, lengthen the exhale, and label the sensation as pressure spreading and fading. The physical force is the same, the experience is not. Repeat this with a movement that is usually sticky, a slow turn of the head, a careful reach, and you will often find that attention's posture predicts how large the moment will feel. Time is not only felt in the present, it is remembered after the fact, and memory uses shortcuts. Two of those shortcuts, peaks and endings, will shape how your attention treats the next similar moment. If the most intense instant and the final instant of an episode were both high, your brain will store the whole event as long and bad, even if much of it was mild. You can influence the ending on purpose. Add a short, calm routine after spikes, 2 long exhales, a posture that feels strong and open, a brief walk, a warmer temperature on the area, a sentence like, that rose, it stayed, and it fell. Endings written this way shorten remembered time and make future predictions less dire. Boredom inflates duration. Curiosity compresses it. When you have nothing to do but monitor, minutes are heavy. Build tiny attentional tasks that are absorbing without being arousing. Trace the outline of your hand with a finger while breathing. List 10 shades of a color you can see. Count inhales up to 5. then back down. Identify 5 sounds from farthest to nearest. Imagine a favorite place, 1 sense at a time. These are not distractions in the sense of escape. They are structured occupations that keep attention moving and prevent it from circling the same small square. Vision is a powerful lever because it is such a large slice of the brain's real estate. Panoramic eyes is a simple practice. Let your focus soften so you can see the edges of the room without moving your head. Notice how breath drops and shoulders loosen. Pair panoramic vision with a slow, even head turn through a limited range. Many people find that the perceived size of neck or upper back discomfort shrinks when the eyes are not tunneling. Panoramic hearing works similarly. Listen for the farthest sound, then the nearest, then both at once. The nervous system associates wide sensory fields with safety, and safety compresses time. Cognitive load can also shrink perceived duration by occupying working memory with something meaningful. This is why engaging conversations, puzzles at the right difficulty, or absorbing creative tasks often make hours vanish. Use this intentionally in small doses. Set a gentle timer, 10 or 15 minutes, for something absorbing that does not inflame the body. Writing a note to someone, sketching, rebuilding a playlist, sorting a small drawer, tending a plant. When the timer ends, pause for 2 slow breaths and check the body before choosing the next thing. The task is not to outrun sensation, but to keep your day from becoming a single, uninterrupted measurement session. Nature offers attentional patterns that soothe without demanding. Repeated yet varied forms, leaves in a breeze, waves lapping, firelight, cloud drift, create soft fascination. Soft fascination holds attention enough to prevent rumination while leaving room for reflection. If you can step outside, let your eyes rest on a medium-distance horizon for a few minutes and count 5 movements you can see that you are not causing. If you are indoors, a plant, a window view, or even a short nature video used deliberately, sound low, eyes soft, can provide similar input. The goal is predictable change, enough to give attention something kind to chew on. Precision about breaks keeps time from becoming an undifferentiated block. Without structure, attention defaults to monitoring. With structure, you get edges, beginnings and endings that are yours. Try working in gentle intervals, 10 to 20 minutes of a chosen task, 2 minutes of a simple reset, stand, shoulder rolls, long exhale, look far, then choose again. Use a non-jarring timer, and when it rings, avoid the just 1 more minute habit that blurs edges. Clear edges give attention predictable places to rest, and predictable rest reduces the urge to fixate. When discomfort is high, attention often glues to the loudest square inch. You can redirect by asking very specific questions that only curiosity can answer. Where does it start? And where does it stop on a ruler's length? Does it change with temperature? Which breath, second, third, or fourth, softens it most? Is it the same when I speak versus when I'm silent? Does it alter when I imagine the area expanding 1 millimeter? Each question gives attention a constructive job and builds a catalogue of small knobs you can turn. Technology can help or hinder. Constant notifications keep attention in a startled crouch and make minutes feel chopped. Conversely, a few carefully chosen aids can assist retraining. An app that gently pings you to breathe every hour. A screen filter that warms evening light. A soundscape that offers steady, low complexity noise. A simple counter you tap each time you notice a micro easing. The test for any tool is whether you feel more choice after using it. If a tool increases vigilance, shelve it. If it expands your sense of steerage, keep it. Social attention is contagious. Sit near someone who moves slowly and breathes evenly, and your cadence will tend to match. Share a quiet task, shelling peas, folding towels, walking without conversation, and let your attention entrain to their steadiness. If the people around you are rushed or alarmed, borrow steadiness from a recorded voice that calms you, a piece of music with a tempo your breath likes, or a memory of a person whose presence makes you exhale. The body does not require in-person company to benefit from felt companionship. Vivid recall plus a consistent cue can approximate the same regulation. Attention can be trained in formal ways, and different practices do different things. Narrow focus practices, counting breaths, repeating a simple phrase, tend to strengthen stability and reduce mind wandering. Open monitoring practices, watching thoughts, feelings, and sensations arise and pass, tend to increase flexibility and reduce stickiness. For sensitive systems, short, gentle doses work best. 2 to 5 minutes of breath counting, then 1 minute of open noticing, then back to breath, is often enough to change the quality of attention for the next hour. End deliberately with an external anchor, sound, sight, contact, so the practice finishes in the world rather than exclusively in the body. When attention collapses into worry, do not wrestle it, give it a handhold. The 5 senses sweep is simple and effective. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can feel, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Go slowly. If a category is sparse, imagine possibilities rather than forcing them. By the time you finish, the moment has edges again, and the clock has moved without strain. Repeat as needed, always with the aim of including the signal, not erasing it. It helps to plan small attention shifts in advance, because improvisation is hard when alarms are loud. Write a tiny menu you can reach for. Panoramic eyes, name and breathe, sound ladder, 5 senses sweep, 10 slow steps, warm and settle, simple task for 10 minutes. Put the menu where you will see it, on your phone's lock screen, a card by the chair, a sticky note on the kettle. Attention loves defaults, offer it kinder ones. Over the day, think of attention like a budget. Spend some on necessary monitoring, more on meaningful activity, and reserve a little for pure rest. If you overspend on monitoring early, the rest of the day feels thin. If you underfund meaningful activity, the monitoring expands to fill the vacuum. Adjust in small ways. A 5-minute creative micro-task after a difficult hour, a short walk before a long sit, a deliberate visual reset between conversations. These micro-allocations change the rhythm of time, and rhythms are what your nervous system trusts. Finally, remember that attention is not an on-off switch you either get right or fail at. It is a dial you can nudge many times a day. Each nudge, toward precision, toward panorama, toward measured endings, toward small occupations you care about, reduces the fraction of the day that belongs to a single sensation and increases the fraction that belongs to your life. In that wider day, the same signals are easier to meet with steady breath and practical choices, which prepares you to try the simple physical soothers that teach your system a quieter baseline and make room for the next experiments you will bring to the body's alarm. Your body's alarm learns from whatever you do most, so the way to calm it is not with one grand gesture, but with many small, repeatable signals that say, safe. Think of these as dials you can turn: breath, posture, temperature, touch, rhythm, words, and tiny, movements. Each dial on its own lowers the volume a notch. Together, they teach your system a new baseline. Start where the easiest win is today, and stack from there, letting comfort, not heroics, be the guide. Begin with a dial that changes the fastest. Breath. Longer exhales are a built-in message to the nervous system that it can downshift. Try a gentle pattern through the nose. Inhale softly, then let the exhale last a beat or two longer, as if you're fogging a cold window in slow motion. Keep the breath light enough that your ribs can move without strain. If the mind is jumpy, count 5 of these breaths and label each exhale down. Another simple option is the physiological sigh, a small inhale, a second, smaller top-up inhale, then a long, unforced exhale through the mouth. Repeat 2 or 3 times, then return to easy nasal breathing. Humming on the exhale adds a subtle vibration that many people find soothing. The sound gives your attention a thread to hold while the body registers length, pressure, and tone. Pair the breath with posture cues that your brain reads as room to think. Let the jaw unclench, the tongue rest softly against the palate, and the shoulders hang heavier than they were a moment ago. Imagine a string gently lengthening the back of your neck while your chest stays easy, not puffed. A small yawn stretch, arms floating up on an inhale, then drifting down with a long exhale, often loosens the upper ribs and signals that bracing can soften. If sitting, slide your hips slightly forward and place both feet on the floor so contact is clear. If standing, let your weight fall through the heels for a breath, then through the balls of the feet, then settle in the middle. Posture is not a statue you hold. It's a conversation of small adjustments that tells your alarm there is no emergency. Temperature is a straightforward lever. Warmth tends to soften guarded tissues and invite movement. Coolness can dial down a hot, prickly spike. Use what the moment asks for. A warm compress on a tense area for 5 to 10 minutes before gentle motion often changes the story your brain expects from that region. A brief cool cloth can quiet a local flare enough to let breath take over. Protect your skin, respect your body's preferences, and let temperature be a background tool rather than a battle. Something that makes the next step easier. Touch changes the channel from threat to information. Steady, kind pressure on or around an area says, "I am here, I'm listening." Try laying one hand on the loud spot and the other on a neutral or pleasant spot. Then breathe with both, as if you're connecting islands. If direct touch is too much, draw a soft circle with your palm a few centimeters away, or hold a folded towel against the region for a diffuse pressure that feels less sharp. Simple self-massage, slow strokes along the direction of the muscle, or gentle kneading that never crosses the line into wincing, feeds the brain non-alarm sensory data. Compression clothing, a light scarf, or a weighted blanket can provide a similar, contained signal, especially when used for short, intentional periods rather than all day. Movement is medicine when it is dosed like medicine. The right type, at the right time, in the right amount. Start smaller than your mind suggests. Think in millimeters and seconds. 2 slow shoulder rolls with long exhales. 3 ankle circles in each direction. A 5-step walk to the window and back. The key is clean success you can repeat. Use the 80% rule. Stop while the movement still feels under control, rather than at the edge of your tolerance. Then rest a breath or two and repeat. Over minutes and days, stack these microsets. A handful in the morning, a handful midday, a handful in the evening. Variety helps maps in your brain stay clear. Rotate between neck, shoulders, spine, hips, and ankles, and change positions. Lying, sitting, standing. Rocking gently, swaying, or tracing figure eights with a joint blends rhythm with movement, which nervous systems understand as play rather than test. Rhythm itself is a potent soother. Your heart and breath like to be metronomed by predictable patterns. Put on music with a steady, comfortable tempo and let your body follow without forcing choreography. Head nods, finger taps, a small sway. If music is too stimulating, use a quiet count. Inhale for a soft count and exhale for a longer one. Or match your breath to a simple phrase you repeat, such as soft in, longer out. Walking is the simplest rhythm of all. Choose a pace where talking feels easy and let your arms swing, even for 2 minutes down a hallway. Each step is a data point that says, moving is safe. The world is bigger than this moment. Words matter. The sentence you place over a feeling is a setting on the dial. Replace "this is terrible" with "this is loud and I can turn it down." Replace "I'm broken" with "I'm sensitive and learning." Replace "it hurts everywhere" with "there is a warm pull here and a steady place there." Speak these sentences aloud if you can, then attach a next action. 2 slow breaths, change position, stand and stroll to the door, warm the spot for 5 minutes. Your body trusts verbs more than headlines. Create a 2-minute reset you can do anywhere because consistency teaches faster than intensity. For example, sit with feet grounded. Place one hand on the chest and one on the belly. Inhale lightly through the nose and exhale longer, 5 times. Roll each shoulder twice. Turn the head a few degrees left and right with a long exhale. Name one thing you see, one thing you hear, one thing you feel that is neutral or pleasant. Done. If you prefer standing, unlock your knees, sway weight side to side, inhale and reach as if putting something on a high shelf. Exhale and let the arms fall. Repeat 3 times, then walk 10 calm steps. Write your reset on a card. Use it before discomfort is high, during and after it eases, so your alarm learns the pattern. Notice, soothe, move, continue. Hydration and steady fuel turn down background noise the alarm might confuse for threat. Keep water within reach and sip through the day. Favor meals that combine protein, fiber, and color, not as a cure, but to keep energy and mood steadier. Large late meals, heavy caffeine late, and long stretches without eating can tip the system toward jittery or drained, both of which magnify signals. Small snacks, an apple with nut butter, yogurt with seeds, a simple sandwich, place comfort in the bloodstream, so your body is not arguing with low fuel while you are asking it to calm. Light and sound shape the room your alarm sits in. Bright overhead light late in the evening keeps the system alert. Dimmer, warmer light says, wind down. Chaotic sound keeps scanning high. Predictable sound. Fan, gentle rain, soft instrumental, gives the brain a safe backdrop. Scents can be anchors if you like them. A drop of a familiar, non-irritating scent on a cloth you only use for calm routines can become a portable cue over time. The test for any environmental change is whether your shoulders drop and your exhale lengthens a little without effort. Ergonomics are simply kindness applied to geometry. If sitting, let the chair support your weight rather than inching forward into a hover. Adjust the surface so your hips are slightly higher than your knees. Rest your forearms on something rather than holding them in space. If standing, alternate feet on a low footrest if possible to vary angles, and let tasks come closer to you rather than you leaning toward them. Every hour, mark a small transition. Stand if you are sitting, sit if you are standing, walk to a window, look far, exhale. Transitions keep your body from accumulating one kind of load until the alarm argues. When a flare spikes, have an if-when plan so you do not have to invent one while your world narrows. On a small card, list steps in order. Acknowledge and label precisely. 2 long physiological sighs. Temperature cue, warmth or cool. Change position, micro movement you trust. A neutral anchor, feel the chair under my legs. A sentence you believe, this rises and falls, I have dials. A tiny next behavior, walk to the sink, stand on the balcony, text a friend a single emoji. Keep the card where you can actually grab it. The card is not magic. It's a preloaded decision tree that replaces fight or flight with follow the steps. Pleasantness training widens what your brain expects to find in your body. Once or twice a day, spend 30 seconds hunting not for what hurts, but for what feels okay or good. Warmth in the hands, softness of clothing, a breeze on the face, the reliable weight of your feet on the ground. Name these textures aloud. This is not ignoring discomfort. It is balancing the ledger your memory will use later when it predicts how the next moment will feel. The more entries under pleasant or neutral, the less the alarm assumes the next signal must be danger. Some people like tiny gadgets and tools as gentle adjuncts. A smooth ball for rolling under the foot while seated can be surprisingly calming to the whole system. A soft foam roller, used like a pillow to drape over, rather than a device to break knots, can invite the upper back and ribs to move with breath. A simple timer that rings softly after 10 minutes can protect you from both overdoing and underdoing. The rule for tools is simple. If you feel yourself bracing against it, back off. If it invites a sigh and a sense of that, keep it. Cozy is medicine. A blanket over the lap, a warm drink held with both hands, a sweater with a collar that cradles the back of the neck. These are not luxuries when you are teaching a guard dog that the house is safe. The more senses you can gather into comfortable enough, the less any single signal dominates. Read a few pages, doodle, water a plant, trace a finger labyrinth, sort a small drawer. Brief, absorbing, low-effort activities that carry you across minutes without demanding much posture or precision. Each successful crossing is practice in living alongside a fluctuating signal without collapsing around it. Practice ending on purpose. Your alarm remembers peaks and endings. After a hard task or a small spike, add a short closing ritual so the ending teaches safety. 2 long exhales, a shake of the hands, a shoulder roll, a step outside, a sip of water, a sentence marking what went right, even if small, like, I paused early, or I breathed instead of braced. Endings like this compress the memory of duration and lower the starting volume for the next round. If anxiety rides along with discomfort, give it a job rather than telling it to go away. Ask it to count 10 breaths. Ask it to list 5 blue things in the room. Ask it to watch your forearms rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. Anxiety is energy looking for a task. The more concrete the task, the less it will write catastrophic scripts. When the script still arrives, answer with specificity. Yes, it's loud. And when I exhale longer and move a little, it changes. Invite others into your soothing routine in simple ways. Ask a friend to sit shoulder to shoulder and breathe with you for 2 minutes. Ask a partner to place a steady hand on your upper back while you do 3 slow reaches. Teach them the phrases that help. At your pace. Tell me when to stop. What's the smallest version that feels okay? Borrowing calm from a trusted person is efficient. It accelerates the lesson your alarm is trying to learn. Track what helps lightly. A notebook or a phone note with very short entries. Time, what you tried, what shifted a little, produces both a menu for next time and evidence that the dial moves. Look for patterns rather than perfection. Maybe warmth before movement is your key, or maybe a walk before sitting helps, or perhaps your system prefers morning resets to evening ones. Patterns become rules of thumb you can use without thinking. Throughout all of this, keep your experiments small and your tone friendly. The alarm lowers its guard in proportion to how safe the process feels, not how impressive the performance is. 2 breaths are better than none. 1 slow head turn is better than 0. A single sentence that replaces doom with direction is a win. Stack small wins until they feel like a habit, then nudge the edge by a millimeter. Over time, the baseline shifts, the room inside your day gets bigger, and the same signals arrive to a body that knows what to do with them. Each simple practice is both a comfort now and a rehearsal for steadier moments later, leaving you with more attention and energy for exploring how your mind can edit old traces so they return softer when the memory opens again. Memories are not shelves of fixed objects. They are living pages that the brain rewrites each time you open them. When a painful memory returns, it becomes temporarily malleable. Its edges loosen, its colors soften, and what you do in those minutes matters. If the memory is relived inside panic, the nervous system will refile it with more panic ink. If it is revisited inside safety, it can be saved with a gentler tone. This is the practical heart of reconsolidation. Recall, update, restore. You are not erasing history. You are editing the caption so the picture stops setting off the fire alarm. Begin by creating a reliable safety frame before you touch the memory at all. Choose a time when you are not already overloaded and set the scene so your body believes you. Lower light, a stable chair, a blanket for weight, a scent you associate with calm, and a short breath pattern you already trust. Longer, unforced exhales through the nose or a few physiological sighs. Place one hand where the body feels most neutral, often the belly or the upper chest, and let the other rest on a surface that feels solid. The posture should read as supported rather than braced. If you like, choose a quiet sound, a fan, soft music without words, that will serve as an auditory anchor. You are building a context that your nervous system will later tag on to the memory in place of alarm. Now touch the memory briefly, on purpose. You do not need to dive into every detail. Pick one small, representative slice. The first sting, the expression on someone's face, the moment you notice the ache, and bring it to mind as if you were holding a photo at arm's length. Keep one part of your attention on your anchors, the hand on your chest, the rhythm of your breath, the weight of your legs, the sound in the room. This dual attention, one channel on the past, one on safety now, creates the prediction error the brain needs to update its model. The old cue appears, but the predicted danger does not arrive. Stay with the slice for 10 to 30 seconds. Then gently let it fade and look around the room, naming 2 or 3 present time details. This is one lap. One lap is enough for a start. When the slice is open, pair it with a new specific caption. Broad statements like, "It's fine," are too thin to teach a model that learned from pain. Instead, use precise, time-bound lines. "That was a sharp pull after lifting. Now I'm sitting, breathing, and my shoulder is supported." Or "Back then, I panicked and held my breath. Right now, I can exhale slowly and feel the chair under my thighs. Speak the line aloud if you can. Hearing your own voice adds weight to the update. Keep the grammar anchored in the present. Now I feel, right here I notice. So the hippocampus binds the memory to this safer context rather than to an abstract idea. Imagery rescripting helps when the memory includes a helpless you. Picture the scene as it was, then introduce your current self into the frame. Not as a magician who prevents the event, but as a companion who changes the meaning. See yourself standing nearby with the posture you built just now. Shoulders soft, breath steady, eyes gentle. Let your present self place a steady hand on your past self's back. Offer 2 instructions. Breathe out. Let your jaw loosen. And speak 1 sentence of validation that you would have needed then. This is loud, and we will move through it. The brain is willing to store this new social cue alongside the old scene because it is emotionally believable and somatically grounded. Keep it simple. The addition is not a movie, it is a single kindness looped until it feels true enough. Because memories are filed with bodily states, change your body while the page is open. If the old trace is bracing and stillness, pair recall with micro-movement and breath. Slowly turn the head a few degrees, roll a shoulder once, or extend and relax your fingers. If the old trace is breath-holding, pair recall with audible, lengthened exhales. If the old trace is collapse, pair recall with gentle supported length in the spine. You are teaching the nervous system that this cue goes with this new body state, so next time the cue pops up, the default posture leans towards the update. Language precision strengthens the edit. After each lap, write 2 short columns. On the left, the specific cue you recalled, the throb stepping off the curb, the technician's tone. On the right, the present update you paired, exhaled longer, warmth on calf, walked 12 steps afterward, asked for slower explanation, shoulders dropped. Keep entries factual, short, and free of absolutes. Over days, this log becomes evidence your predictive brain can trust. It is hard for the mind to argue with a pattern it can see. Cue to calm steps to survivable outcome. Use short sessions, often minutes, not hours, so the system learns abundance and control rather than scarcity and overwhelm. 2 or 3 laps, then deliberately close the page. Name the room, take 2 long exhales, stand and change your visual field by looking far out a window, sip water and do a brief, pleasant task. Tidy a small surface, water a plant, step outside. Endings matter. A clean ending teaches the brain that memory work concludes with safety, which makes it more willing to open the page next time. Triggers in the present can also be re-tagged. If a hallway, a smell, or a time of day tends to pull the old trace forward, bring that trigger into your lab on purpose. Meet it at a dose that stays within your window. A photo of the hallway before walking it. A faint hint of the smell while seated with support. The time of day approached with a companion and a plan. Pair the trigger with 3 steadying cues: breath, posture, words, and a small action that ends well. In behavioral terms, this is extinction learning. In story terms, it is the same doorway now opens to a different room. Bilateral rhythms can help some people hold dual attention without getting stuck in the old channel. Gentle left-right cues, alternating heel taps, soft self-taps on the thighs, or even tracking a slow figure 8 with your eyes, give the brain a predictable, non-verbal task while you recall an update. Keep the rhythm slow and the movements tiny. The point is steady background, not performance. If you feel yourself chasing the rhythm and losing the calm anchors, pause and return to breath only. For sticky, over-generalized memories, bending is bad. Mornings are always awful. Train specificity. Take the category and split it into parts you can practice. Bending becomes hip hinge with hands on thighs, then hip hinge with one hand on a countertop, then picking up a light object close to the body. Mornings becomes first 10 minutes stiff, then warm shower, then 3 gentle moves while the kettle boils. Each successful specific becomes a competing memory that the brain can select instead of the old, global rule. The more specific competitors you stack, the less airtime the overgeneralized trace receives. When the memory includes another person's expression or words that stung, rehearse the scene with different social cues. Invite a trusted friend or partner to read a brief, supportive script that directly contradicts the old line, while you hold your anchors and picture the moment. Your body was protecting you. Tissues heal. You have tools now. We can go slowly. Record their voice and replay it during later laps. The brain is highly responsive to social input. Borrowing someone's steady tone can accelerate an update. Your inner voice is not yet able to supply on demand. Use then-now contrast cards at places where triggers live. On one side, write a concise description of the old moment. On the other, a concise description of what is true now and what you do when cued. Example: then, sharp low back grab getting out of the car, breath held, froze. Now, exhale first, hand to door frame, slow stand, walk 10 steps, settles in 2 minutes. Keep the card where you see it at the relevant moment. Sun visor, hallway table, front pocket. The card's job is to interrupt autopilot and present the updated script at exactly the right time. Prospective imagery, pre-experiencing a future event with calm anchors, primes the model before you go. If a clinic visit, a commute, or a social gathering tends to stir the trace, rehearse it the day before in 3 passes. First pass as a movie from the outside where you look competent and supported. Second pass from the inside with breath cues and precise labels. Third pass in fast forward hitting only the anchors. Exhale, posture, word. At each hurdle, keep each pass short. When the day arrives, your nervous system has already practiced choosing the updated page. Be mindful of dose. If a lap floods you, shrink the slice or switch cues. Flooding teaches the old lesson too well. Underdosing teaches nothing. The sweet spot is present enough to feel it, safe enough to edit it. Increase dose by millimeters. A few seconds longer, 1 detail more, a breath or 2 deeper, a slightly closer trigger. Decrease by pulling back to anchors, opening your eyes wide to widen visual attention, or changing position. You are allowed to stop mid-lap if the signal overwhelms. Mark the stop as a wise choice rather than a failure. And close cleanly with your ending ritual so the last note is calm, not chaos. When the memory sits inside bigger, heavier trauma, it is wise to bring a trained guide into the room. The principles are the same. Recall inside safety, update with accuracy, restore with new context. But another nervous system can hold the edges when your own feels thin. The goal stays practical, not to retell everything, but to retag the cues that hijack your present so you can live more of your day in proportion. Over days and weeks, watch for the quiet signs that the edit is taking. The cue still appears, but it is less sticky. The spike rises and falls faster. Your body remembers to exhale on its own. You notice the chair under you sooner. You reach for your plan card without hunting. You can narrate specifics instead of global doom. You end episodes on purpose. These are the metadata attached to the memory changing. Keep noting them in simple language so your predictive brain accumulates proof that the world now is not the world then. Finally, let the updates spread outward. Once a cue is softer in the lab, carry it into a slightly messier context. A busier room, a longer walk, a conversation with a new person. Bring your anchors with you. Rehearse a single sentence you can recall under pressure, and keep your endings deliberate even in public. 2 long exhales. Soften the jaw. Name one neutral detail in the environment. Each successful foray teaches the model that the new caption travels, so the old page appears less and less. Bit by bit, the memory keeps its facts and loses its veto, making room for tomorrow's experiences to write their own lines without borrowing fear from yesterday.